Hello and welcome to another episode of Moments of Consequence. Just me this time, just Barrett, doing a new thing I'm going to start called a 10-minute topic. And tonight, I think I'm going to reveal to you, all my beloved listeners, all 80 something of you, I'm going to reveal what the perfect character is. What's up, friends? Nice to formally introduce myself. My name's Barrett. I love this game. It's the best game ever. Let's talk about the perfect character. And psych, it doesn't exist. I think this game's hallmark, Warhammer Renaissance, one of the coolest parts about it is that the game is balanced to where there really isn't a perfect character that you can play. All of the characters have some sort of weakness that can be countered either by things in armies or by other characters or by magic items, combinations of stuff. So I think that the game is really interesting and character building is really interesting because of that. Because if there's no perfect character, then you can, the power gaming comes into it. Can you build something as close to that, and what are some of the strong things that you can do with it? So I'm going to break down how our group looks at characters and the way we look at stuff. So one of the reasons why it's impossible to build the unkillable hero is because there's just really a lack of high ward save options throughout the codex. There's a heavy armor for 6-up ward save, a 4-up ward save that's really expensive, also a 5-up ward save, but all of those are heavy armor, and not everything can wear heavy armor. So those are just difficult ways to get a ward save. Certain codexes might have like unique ward save items specific to them. I'm thinking of like the Dark Elves. I know they've got one, but again, those are going to be expensive and few and far between. And so it's just really not easy to spam that, and not something that you can give to a unit that then applies to a character. So when you factor in all those things together, then it's pretty it's just pretty sparse. Not a lot of ward save options. There's also not a lot of access to toughness and wounds. So one of the things that if you can't get a high enough ward save or reliable ward save, or it doesn't fit with your point cost, another way that you can circumvent that is you can just jack your toughness up or jack your wounds up. But again, that also has limited like uses and access, and you can't combine magic armors as well. So heavy armor, the armor of unyielding is heavy armor with +2 toughness. That one's really, really strong and used a lot in our meta because toughness and strength are king pretty much with our characters. And there's the Shield of Magic immunity that's got obvious benefits, but really all of the great armor, magic armor, is going to be also locked behind the heavy armor keyword too. So that's very important to think about. And in our experience with all the games we've played, and we play quite a bit of Warhammer Renaissance, we try to get in a game about once a week pace. Sometimes we film them, sometimes we don't. But in our duels, it's usually speed and strength are king, and there's different ways that you can achieve that. But really stacking high strength items or having a chassis that allows you to have a high strength or high toughness or high attacks, any of those stats that you can spike up to a different number, or like an unexpected number, can be really, really detrimental for your opponent to deal with. So like, for example, like the Sword of Heroes is if your toughness 5 or higher than if your opponent is, then you get to strike with +3 strength, and you are 1d3 wounds for every wound you cause. And that's incredibly strong. So that's a way to circumnavigate if your opponent has lots of high toughness things. We really like the Blade of Darting Steel because there's some items that both found in the magical armor and in the enchanted item section. There's some minus to hit items. So that's just one of the two, in every single combat, there's to hit and to wound rolls. And so if you can circumvent one of those, if you can just not have to roll a set of dice either for your attacks or for your wounds, it can be a way to get more damage across the finish line and onto characters and killing whoever you're trying to fight. So we really like the Blade of Darting Steel because it negates some of those items and negates a roll for you, your to hit rolls, because it's all your attacks auto hit. And I'll come back to the Bladed Darting Steel in a little bit. The last thing that we really, really like, and this is a really dirty combo, it's very cheap too. And I'm actually just going to flip real quick back to make sure I didn't put the amount on there. Yeah, so the Venom Sword with the Van Horseman Speculum is one of the cheapest ways to just absolutely rock somebody's day, especially if they're trying to bring like a great character that's very, very strong. It can be a way to, the Van Horsemen's, you trade your strength, attacks, and weapon skill. You switch those, and let me make sure that's all correct on the weapon skill. I don't want to tell you guys wrong. Right here, with Van Horsemen's, you exchange attacks, weapon skill, and strength as they appear on your opponent's profile, and you attack at exactly the same time. Combine that with the Venom Sword. If you can just get one wound through to your opponent, you can then multiply that out by d6. It's a great challenge killer. It's a great if you're like an Empire character or a high elf character where you're just really struggling with high strength things, or you just feel like you're going to come up against something that's just incredibly strong and difficult to deal with, it can be a way to really turn the tides of that combat. I think dual utility chassis are very, very strong. Things like the Slan Mage Priests, Vampires, Chaos characters that can go toe-to-toe in melee and then also have magic capabilities is just incredibly strong, because if you've played this game just a little bit, you know how incredibly strong the magic phase is, even with all the ways that we can shut it down, blah, blah, blah. I won't get into that, but you can still, anytime you can get spells through, you can just win the game. And that's an incredibly important thing to do. If you can bring it and you can fit it in a 400-point chassis, as I'm going to show you here in a second, then it's just really, really strong. So lastly, I'm going to finish with my best build at 1,600 points. Competitive, meaning that you can only bring 25% for one model. So 400 points is the limit. And let me tell you, it's my only goal is to try to find the most efficient way to hit all 400 for when I build a power gaming, what's my best character I can build. So I bring a level 3 Jade, which that's actually part of the reason it works, but I have to get the right spells, and I'll come back to that in just one second. The Blade of Darting Steel auto hits my 6 attacks, which if you look at the bottom right of our screen, I have 6 attacks at strength 6, toughness 5, at weapon skill 5, but they auto hit. So my weapon skill is not very good, but I have a lot of attacks. Blade of Darting Steel is just a no-brainer for that. Skull Staff, so I know exactly within 12 inches, wherever he teleports around with a spell that I'm going to have, wherever he teleports around, I can know what's on the battlefield, and knowledge is half the fight, especially with magic items. A Dispel Scroll for shutting down a spell that I just absolutely can't have go through, and the Book of Secrets to draw more cards at my discretion to mill the deck, find those power cards, the total power, the rebound, some of those really, really good power cards to then overpower the phase. And the trick with it is, and so you could lose the game before you even start. The trick is you've got to be able to draw at least 1 or 2 of these 3 spells. You have to have the Jade Casket, which allows you to revive things, which is incredibly strong if you pair it with either a mummified mummy, mummified Slan Mage Priest, or if you pair it with a Stegodon, you can res it, you throw it into combat, res it again, throw it into combat. So that's a lot of fun. Or if you don't do that, you either have to get the Jade Casket, Flesh to Stone, which doubles your strength and toughness but halves your movement, and then so that's, if you get into combat and you can get that off, then it's incredibly strong, because then you're strength 10, toughness 10 with 6 attacks that auto hit. So it's money. And then you also need Earthblood to be able to regen your wounds and to teleport all over the battlefield. So that's kind of the 3 spells that you need. You need at least 2 of them to make the build work. Sometimes I just like to go level 2 and guarantee 2 of the spells, because you can build better items, but I don't know, it's tough. I think that's why the game's balance is, I think that's one of my best characters I can put together. He's incredibly strong. He is the general with leadership 9 bubble, large target, can disrupt ranks from flanks and rears. So I mean, he's very, a very good piece, but unfortunately, I just think, or I should say, fortunately, you can't build characters that just overpower the battlefield. So, hey, let me know your guys' thoughts. What characters you guys would bring at 400 points? If you could bring 400 points to bring a single character, how dirty can you make him or her or it? Let me know in the comments. Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun.